welcome back to another Spanish lesson. In Spanish, we have two verbs that often cause confusion for English speakers, ver and mirar.
And that's because, just like in English, we need to use the right verb whenever we want to express to look at something versus to see something versus to watch something. But when you look up ver and mirar in the dictionary, all of these uses apply to both verbs. So for example, if I were to say something like, look at this painting, how do we know which one of these is correct?
Ve esta pintura or mira esta pintura.
And not only can this cause some confusion, but ver and mirar are actually used in other situations as well. For example, when we want to take a pause, we could say something like, let's see.
A ver.
Or give a compliment like, look at you.
Mira tú.
But we'll get into that later.
First, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you still haven't.
And after the video, check out anytimeespanol.com where you can grab yourself a free gift. Now, first, we're going to talk about mirar, and then we'll talk about ver. And then afterwards, we'll get into some extra bonus uses.
And also, we'll have a little quiz so you can test yourself.
Okay, so whereas Spanish defines mirar as to look at or to watch or to pay attention to something, you want to think of mirar more as when someone deliberately directs their eyes or attention to something. Remember, it's the verb we're going to use when the focus is intentional. So for example, if I were to say the kids were watching the magician at the party.
Los niños miraban al mago en la fiesta.
So they're not just simply seeing him, they're directing their eyes or attention deliberately. They're intentionally watching him. So we need mirar. And if we were to say, has Anna looked at the recent report yet?
¿Ya ha mirado Ana el informe más reciente?
So we're not just saying if she's seen it, we're saying has she looked at it intentionally, has she paid attention to it? Or we could say something like, look at me when I'm talking to you.
Mírame cuando te hablo.
So here we're saying pay attention to me or deliberately direct your eyes at me. Or if you had looked more closely, you would have noticed the typo.
Si hubieras mirado más a detalle, habrías notado el error de escritura. So the takeaway here is that we use mirar when the focus is intentional.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, we want to think of ver as to see, to perceive, or to notice. But what we want to remember about ver is that it emphasizes perception over intention. So ver is seeing something unintentionally. Basically, if your eyes are open, you can see it. So for example, last weekend, Carlos saw his old teacher at the market.
El fin de semana pasado, Carlos vio a su antiguo profesor en el mercado.
So mirar would have been used if he was intentionally seeing his old teacher or if he was paying attention to his old teacher. But in this case, he was simply in the market, and because his eyes were open, he happened to see his old teacher. So let's see another one. I doubt that Maria has seen the message.
Dudo que María haya visto el mensaje.
So before, when we were talking about mirar, if she had looked at the report yet with intention or detail or she was paying attention to it, here we're just simply saying she hasn't seen it yet. My sister accompanied me to the mall and we saw some shoes that I liked.
Mi hermana me acompañó al centro comercial y vimos unos zapatos que me gustaron.
So we didn't go with intention, we weren't looking for them, we just happened to be in the mall and we saw them. And one of the most common ways that we also use ver is in nos vemos, which is what we use to talk about seeing somebody at a later date or if we want to say goodbye to someone. So for example, we could say, see you on Tuesday.
Nos vemos el martes. So the trick is that mirar is to look at something with intention.
Whereas ver is to see or to perceive something unintentionally. And just for fun, let's see how we could use ver and mirar at the same time in these next three examples. Look closely at the two graphs to see the difference.
Mira bien las dos gráficas para ver la diferencia.
So we first use mirar for look closely because we're doing it intentionally. We're paying attention to it, whereas we're using ver to see the difference. I looked out the window to see if he had arrived.
Miré por la ventana para ver si ya había llegado.
So I looked out the window intentionally. I was paying attention in order to see with my eyes if he had arrived. So we use ver. We looked at the map to see where we were.
Miramos el mapa para ver dónde estábamos.
So here we use mirar because we're looking intentionally, paying attention to the map in order to see where we are. Now, in Spanish, we know that there are always exceptions, and that's when it comes to watching movies or TV series or sports, really any kind of entertainment. When it comes to watching entertainment, you may hear mirar or ver. Now, this can depend on which Spanish country you're in or what region you're in or even education level. So, whereas as a Spanish student, I would think that if you're watching something, you would use mirar because you're paying attention to it or you're doing it intentionally. But in my experience, in both Mexico and Spain, we always use ver when we talk about watching entertainment. So, for example, I'm gonna watch a movie tonight.
Voy a ver una película esta noche.
Are you watching the match right now?
¿Estás viendo el partido ahora?
You've been in front of the TV all day. What are you watching?
Han estado enfrente de la tele todo el día. ¿Qué ven?
So this one's kind of the exception, whereas you would think you should use mirar, normally you're going to hear ver when it comes to intentionally watching something on TV or a movie or any kind of entertainment. Now, don't worry too much about this because in any Spanish-speaking country, if you use ver or mirar, they're going to understand you. Now, just as a bonus, let's quickly check out a few other ways that we can use mirar and ver.
First, mirar can mean to pay attention, examine, or consider. So, for example,
Before signing, look carefully at or pay attention to the clauses.
antes de firmar, mira las cláusulas con atención.
Angelica will consider other alternatives before deciding.
Angélica mirará otras alternativas antes de decidir.
And secondly, mirar is one of the best filler words that we can use. So in this way, it still means to look at, but not a person or an object, but rather at a thought or an idea. So for example, look, this is important for the exam.
Mira, esto es importante para el examen.
Look, I don't know what to say right now. I'm so sorry.
Mira, no sé qué decirte ahora mismo. Lo siento mucho.
Now, ver can also be used as a filler word in this way when we use it like a ver. This expresses like let's see or okay, or just kind of as a pause when you need a second to think. So, for example, okay, let's hear it. Tell me what happened.
A ver, cuéntame qué pasó.
Let's see if it doesn't rain tomorrow.
A ver si mañana no llueve.
And secondly, ver can mean to see someone as in to visit them. So, for example, I'm going to see my grandmother this weekend.
Voy a ver a mi abuela este fin de semana.
They would see their family more often if they lived closer.
Ellos verían a su familia más seguido si vivieran más cerca. Ver can also be used to check or look at results. So, for example,
I want to see the exam grades today.
quiero ver las calificaciones del examen hoy.
We'll see whether the plan works.
Veremos si el plan funciona.
And lastly, ver can mean to understand or to realize something. For example, do you see what I mean now?
¿Ves ahora lo que quiero decir?
Ah, now I see your point.
Ah, ahora veo tu punto.
Back then, we didn't see how important it was to go to university.
En aquel entonces no veíamos lo importante que era ir a la universidad. Perfecto. Now we understand how to use mirar and ver correctly.
But Darcy would like to have a quick quiz just to make sure that we understand. So let's start. So how would we say, Marta watches TV every night after dinner?
Marta ve la televisión cada noche después de cenar.
So remember, although I said that you may hear ver or mirar when it comes to entertainment, it's more correct. Normally, you're going to hear ver. Okay, number 2, how would we say, yesterday, I didn't see my coworkers in the meeting?
Ayer no vi a mis compañeros en la reunión.
So here, we're not talking about watching or paying attention to or doing something intentionally. We're simply saying, I didn't see them yesterday. So we need ver. Now, third, how would we say, look at this painting. It's an impressive work of art.
Mira este cuadro. Es una obra de arte impresionante.
So here we're specifically saying, look at this, pay attention to it, direct your eyes intentionally. So we need mirar. Okay, number 4, how would we say, when I went out to the balcony, I looked toward the sky because I like the stars.
Cuando salí al balcón, miré hacia el cielo porque me gustan las estrellas.
So again, we're intentionally or deliberately directing our eyes at something. So we need mirar. Okay, and lastly, how would we say, in order to see where the museum was, I looked at the map?
Para ver dónde estaba el museo, miré el mapa.
So in order to simply see or perceive where the museum is, we needed to pay attention to or look intentionally at the map. So we needed ver and then mirar. And that's it. Don't forget that we're going to leave all of the links in the description of this video for things like Buy Me a Coffee, which is the best way to directly support this channel, as well as Patreon, where you become a member and receive exclusive benefits to improve your Spanish.
And hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Spanish videos like this.
But now watch this video to keep improving your Spanish. Until next time.